Hello and welcome to Boom or Bust NFL Fantasy Football Podcast. Coming into week 9, it's Thursday night and we have got all the action for you. We're going to cover the injury latest on guys like Kupp, Deebo Samuel, Keenan Allen and all the rest. We've got the trade deadline implications for fantasy football. We've got our usual segments, start 'em, sit 'em. Not messing around, joined by my co-host as ever, Shug. You good?
Here, all good here, mate. Desperate to get into
Ex-
this.
Absolutely, myself as well. So I'll not hold back. For anyone watching live on YouTube, please make sure you're subscribed already. Take part in the action, get commenting, send us your trade dilemmas, your lineup questions. We'll answer them as best we can. But I'm looking ahead to the games, and one guy that I'll be starting, Shug, is AJ Dillon. All right, there's going to be a few people shaking their head just now, thinking this guy's got to be off his head. But the reason I go for this, I'm not going to sit here and say I think you should start Josh Allen, because you'd be crazy not to start Josh Allen. So we need to go with something a wee bit different. I know that Dillon hasn't scored any more than 10 points since week 1, but what we take into account is he's up against the Detroit Lions, who are shipping so many points this season, it's unbelievable. They're number 29 in the league against the run, and I just think he's in for a big day. We've been waiting on that one. All right, and you look at the Packers, okay, they're missing Randall Cobb, they're missing Alan Lazard, they're missing Christian Watson potentially. So that leaves them Romeo Doubs and Aaron Jones for me on offense. So the way I look at it, it's going to be a big run day in terms of Green Bay Packers, and that's the way that they're going to go about it. Would you agree?
Um, it's a bold call. What I'm glad about is that you're not showing blind loyalty to the Lions anymore just because of that documentary, Hard Knocks. I think you
You're
could be
never
right,
letting me
though, to
that
be
live
fair.
down.
I don't think they're great. I think the Lions are very poor, and you're probably right with injuries. AJ Dillon could be on a good week. I think it's a bold prediction. As you said, though, it's good with these startums not to go to the obvious ones, so hopefully a decent, hopefully for you, a decent shout anyway.
Now, when I look at these things, I look at the matchups, I look at like the Packers against the Lions. It's going to be a high-scoring game. They're going to look to bounce back. The Packers haven't had a great season, but I expect them to win this one. And when I look around the league, I see games like another game that really interests me is the Raiders going away to Jacksonville against the Jaguars.
Yeah.
Jaguars will be looking to bounce back after a disappointing weekend in London. Trevor Lawrence wasn't great. I think I'm looking around that team thinking I expect a wee bit more. It was like the Travis Etienne show in London. But is there anyone else in that game that catches your eye?
Yep, I'm going to go my first start. I'm actually Evan Ingram. Last week he scored a season high for him. He faces the Raiders, as you said, this week, who have allowed 16.2 points to tight ends. The tight ends, as we spoke about the other night, are hard to come by in our league. So he's one that's going straight into my starting team. I'm glad to have him in the squad. It's a position where quality and consistency is quite hard to come by, to be honest with you. So I'm going to go with him. I think it's another big week for Evan Winston Ingram.
Winston. At least he's got two legs, let's put it that way. That's for any non-Scottish fans out there. That's from Still Game. You would get it. A bit of a local joke. I don't know if I agree with Ingram. I don't know if I've just got a blind sort of. I don't know. I just didn't like him at the Giants. He promised so much. He's done brilliant for you. He had a big game last week for you. But yeah, I think you're right. I think the Raiders have been so poor. Jacksonville being at home as well. He could be in for a big game, but there's just something about Ingram that I hope he doesn't do well, because he didn't
Yeah,
really do it at the Giants, mate. But no,
well,
that's
see.
looking to be a good game. We'll see, we'll see. But another guy who's flattered to deceive for myself, especially, and maybe I'm being a wee bit harsh, and maybe I'm jumping the gun, but I stashed him early doors, and I spoke about him highly on the podcast. It was Brian Robinson. Now he's going to be my first sit him this week. And it's been a tough this live stuff, it catches up on me. It's been a tough start to life at the Commanders for Robinson. I know it wasn't the greatest start to his basically NFL life, um, having been shot twice, and it came out yesterday. It was a 17-year-old, unbelievably, that shot him. It's looking likely that he's the RB2 there behind Antonio Gibson. He's only averaged 2.6 yards per carry, and that was against the Colts last week from 8 attempts. It's down from 20 the previous week, so it looks like he's not getting as many attempts, which is a worrying sign for any fantasy owners. What I would do is put him on your bench this week. It doesn't mean he's going to be poor the rest of the season. I'm just not liking him this week. I'm going to have to be a wee bit patient on him. So that's why my first sit-em is Brian Robinson. So, Shug, we have got a question in for you before I come to your first sit-em. It's from the man from our league who loves to trade, but not only does he love to trade, nobody likes to accept his trades. He said, Craig, would you like to roll the dice? AKA, would you like to trade?
Well, listen, this guy, as we've spoke about Toasty, some of the trades he's saying are ridiculous. We'll get to that later on in the show, but it's got to be really different. And I'm just looking at the trades. He's looking for CMC from me, and with the mince he's offered me, I'm not be taking it. So in normal circumstances, I'll be rolling the dice, but not for this man right now.
No problem, mate. I can fully understand. And we're joined by the boys for G4 Podcast Studio, Ben and Greg. Big shout out, guys. Good to have you with us.
How you doing, lads?
He's a film fanatic. He's not the biggest NFL fan, but we're going to convert him. There's Greg now saying my team's a mess. Godspeed. Good luck this weekend, Greg. I know he was flying. Maybe he started listening to us and actually taking our advice.
Probably.
Our apologies, Greg, but we're here for a laugh. Anyway, let's move on. Who's your first sit-em?
My first sit-em, I'm going with Darrell Henderson. He put up 5 fantasy points last week. I don't see that massively improving. Only had 43% of the snaps last week. I just don't see him produce much again this week, to be honest. So I'm going to put him as my first sit-em.
Can't blame you. He's just not done it for me. Even there, where he should be a sort of bell cow running back, where he's going to get everything given the acres. Well, we thought he left. He's not actually left the Rams. Do you know that? They put it
Let's
down to personal problems. I think he's listened to this podcast and he's listened to the absolute trolling that you've gave him, and he's thought, I can't take this. I know. Yeah, believe it or not, he could end up back there. Talks are ongoing that he's going to return, but they've not signed anyone. I can't believe they didn't sign anyone. But in the running back position, but we'll get to that. We'll get to that later in the show. But no, I can't disagree with Darrell Henderson there. I just don't think he's a great running back at all. A team like the Rams, they should be going out and doing what the 49ers are doing. I know that they did try and get Christian McCaffrey and couldn't get him, and it exploded last week against them, and they're now left with Darrell Henderson and grovelling back to not so much your guy Cam Akers.
Yeah.
I know, but we'll not dwell on that too long, but I'm going to look across to the Baltimore Ravens now. Imagine the Baltimore Ravens out in the pitch with glow sticks, banjo in their head. I know. Guy I'm absolutely loving this week is Devin Duverny. So, and right before we came on air, it was announced that Rashad Bateman is out for the season. He's undergoing surgery, which puts him out for the rest of the season. So makes it even bigger that Devin Duverny is my second start. All right. He got 26.3 fantasy points against a solid Bucs defense last week, which is a big ask. And that's his third 23-plus point game this season. And that is what you're looking for in your fantasy sort of startums every week, your plug-and plays. He's got a favourable matchup against the Saints. All right, they're number 24 against the wide receiver in the league. And Duvernay sits as the wide receiver 8 in all of fantasy football. The targets he's getting aren't glaring, and I know that's what we look for, and I know you're seeing the stats on the screen just now for anyone watching live. It was 4 receptions for 4 targets last week, which we look for more targets, but he's a threat all the time. Like we've just said, to back that up, Rashad Bateman's out for the season. He's going to be Lamar Jackson's number 1 target. So this is a guy, if you've got him, start him. You'd be crazy not to. If you've not got him, go and find him, go and get him. And that is why Devin Duverny is my second stardom.
Hard to disagree with that one, mate. Especially as you said, the Bateman injury makes him huge for this season, this week, and the rest of the weeks.
Yeah, I think the same. But who are you liking to look at this week? Who would you have in your lineup right from the off?
Well, you wanted something a bit different, and I've gave you just that. I'm going with the man, the myth, the legend, Rex Buckhead. I was disappointed to ask for Rex a Toy Story, but I'll do it as Baldy Napper. The man is back. He's back in my team. Listen, a lot of players on bye weeks. I've had to bring in somebody to boost morale in that dressing room. Is he going to get me more than 5-6 points? Probably not. But he's a good luck charm in that dressing room. I can't wait. The big one's back on the tools. Rex Buckhead.
I know you've asked for Rex from Toy Story, but I don't know why he's put a picture of Gary Bolin up.
Connor Salmon it is.
Craig, I don't know what to say to you here. Like, I think you've lost it.
Disagree if you want. Listen, the stats, you can pick any stat from there that would disagree with me starting them, but he's a good luck charm. He'll be in a winning team this weekend.
I don't believe you. He's playing tonight against the 7-0 Philadelphia Eagles.
Aye.
In a game that Brandon Cooks is now missing from. So I don't know. Maybe you'll be right. Oh, there we go. For anyone listening on the podcast, we've now got Rex from Toy Story on the screen.
So what's technically difficulties?
I think, right, I'm going to disagree here, right? And what I'm going to say to you is, I think you would be better with Rex for Toy Story.
With those wee hands?
He'd catch more.
Aye. Anyway, moving on. He's there for morale.
He's there. He's there to keep the dressing room going, but I will not dwell on that too much. I'll go on to my next sit-em. All right. I've not went for the obvious again, but I've went for a guy that I know fantasy owners will be frustrated about. Christian Kirk. I know you went for Evan Ingram in that Jacksonville Jaguars game. He's done well, but Christian Kirk for me has been quite disappointing. He's still seen a decent target share, and for that he's just not been efficient enough. I felt he would have been much better. I thought he would have been more consistent after such a strong start to the season. Don't know if it's down to Trevor Lawrence struggling and just not being at his best or what I've expected, but he's had 40 or fewer receiving yards in 3 of his last 4 games. I think that's just not good enough, and it's not what you're looking for. And just now, I'd be looking to bench Christian Kirk. Add to that the arrival of Calvin Ridley, so they're obviously not happy with their wide receivers at Jacksonville. They've brought in reinforcements in Calvin Ridley, who we know is a good player. So for me, my second sit-em is the captain, Christian Kirk.
Yep, I definitely think I traded this guy at the right time. Traded him when he was doing really well. Didn't really want to let go of him, but turned out to be the right decision. He's not really produced since then.
Craig, and I'm looking at the comments here, and we're taking a pasting. I've put AJ Dillon as a starter. You've put Rex Buckhead as a starter. We're going for a bit of a carry on tonight, and we have got Roberto Perez saying Rex Buckhead and AJ Dillon as starters. Any words back for that guy?
First of all, hola, Roberto.
And we'll see you later.
You wake up tomorrow and Rex will have produced.
Wait and see what sort of points Rex has got manana. So we'll move on. Who's your second sit-em?
My second one, Jared Goff. He's very much had a boom or bust season. I had him in as my quarterback for a while. He was putting up decent points. He either produces absolute gold or he ruins your weekend. And I see it being the latter, more frequently from now on. As we've said, not been impressed by the Lions in recent weeks. Although the Packers aren't great, I can't see them giving up much points to Jared Goff this weekend. So he'd been my sit-em straight away. There's so many other quarterbacks you would have in before him. Even in this week, there's so many buys.
I 100% agree with you. And it might be one that folk probably think about starting them because of the buys. And it is week 9 bye again. There's what have we got, 6 teams on byes.
Yeah.
So I think you're quite right saying to drop him, but some folk might just not have a choice in terms of Goff. But he's not been great at all. I think he's been very up and down. Lions offense, he's missed Amon-Ra St. Brown. It's just not went the way that they thought. But yeah, I agree with you on Goff there. I'd be sitting him too if I had him. You still got him? Have you dropped him? Did you say that?
No, I've dropped him. He's out. He's gone.
He's
on the
long gone.
Aye, kicked
He's
him out.
long gone. So, keep the questions going. If you've got any trade queries, send them in to us. If you've got any lineup queries, send them in too. But we'll not hang about. We'll move on. Okay. We will now look to the trades. We'll move on. The man of the hour, Toasty, has been sending trades around the league, and he's caused a lot of controversy in our league, should I say the least. He offered Drew this trade. He offered Drew Greg Dulcich for Cordarrelle Patterson, which just sounds absolutely crazy for anyone that knows anything about fantasy football, right?
So Bob there.
He looks like an artist more than anything.
David Luiz.
David Luiz. So Drew then texts me saying, mate, I'm going to accept this, but as commissioner, go in and veto it, kill it off, right? So I said, I think I get 24 to 48 hours to do that. Go in and I'll kill it off live in air and we'll get a reaction because I know that Toast will be watching live. We had a wee plan and it didn't really go to plan. I woke up this morning and the trade had processed automatically. So we ended up with Greg Dulcich and Toasty had Cordarrelle Patterson. An absolute nightmare.
Listen, I'm going to give my say on this. Toasty, I like slagging the guy, but he's done absolutely nothing wrong here. He's offered a trade. That's between you two knuckleheads have let this trade slip under the radar. So I'm in Toasty's corner here. It's a legit trade. Drew was trying to be funny. You as the commissioner kind of got your admin all wrong and the trade goes through. So I think he's quite entitled. Totally agree with that.
This is out of order. I'm in a hard position here.
No, I think you and Drew have to sort it between yourselves. He's trying to be funny, the joke's backfired. As much as I'd love Toasty to be penalised, he doesn't deserve it this time.
Do you know the best bit about it? He sent me a trade right after it called Derek Patterson for Joe Mixon. But no, it caused turmoil. I had to go in actually and sort it out myself. But I've just received a trade proposal here. Let's see what this is. I like this. Shug, we're put on the spot here. Oh, it's just been cancelled, right? So I'll go into my emails. Oh, what's going on here? What's been cancelled? Man. We'll get to that later on. In fact, that's not the one that's been cancelled. I'm all over the place here. Nah, we'll get to that later on. Okay, so we have got Greg Rudder in the comments saying, I've picked up Josh Palmer as I was struggling at wide receiver. Williams is out. Keenan Allen never trained again, so hoping he gets a lot of targets. I think that's a very good pickup, Shug, and the reason I say that, we've got news coming up on Keenan Allen that he didn't train on Wednesday, and what he said in coming off, like why didn't train Wednesday, he said when they had the bye week last week, the hamstring injury had actually felt worse, and now he's not going to come back until he does feel 100%. You know yourself have been around sports so long, hamstring injuries are one of these things where you can't take the chance on them.
Yeah, absolutely. If you come back too soon, it just ends up going again. You feel something, you can't really perform at the best of your abilities. So he's probably doing the right thing if he still feels his hamstring. It's still not 100%. So I can see them really taking their time on getting him back now. I said they won't want it now from now to the end of the season to be stop-start. If it needs a couple of weeks, then it'll take a couple of weeks. So probably a decent pickup.
Yeah, and you take into consideration not just that Mike Williams is out and Keenan Allen's out, you take into consideration that Josh Palmer was a very good wide receiver and he's a very good football player that's probably waiting on that opportunity to burst on the scene. So I think that's a very good pickup. He also said that he's picked up Tyler Conklin, which is a good pickup. And a wee stat that I've got on Conklin is that he's one of the top 10 targeted players in and around the league. Now, I think he's seen a wee dip when Zach Wilson came in, but he had a huge game last week, and I, stupidly enough, left him on my bench. So I will be starting him this week as well. So we're going to look at another wee trade that came in during the week. And it was one that came to you from Toasty.
Yep.
So for anyone listening, Toasty offered Shug Rashad Bateman and Ramondre Stevenson. This was obviously before the news that he was out for the season. In return for Christian McCaffrey and Mike Williams.
Yeah.
Talk me through this one.
Listen, he's tried another one, and I'll get to that in a minute. But if you're coming for CMC, come with a lot better than that, to be honest with you. I don't see me trading CMC. He put up 40 points last week. I know Mike Williams are injured just now, but he put up 40 points last week, and you're offering me that. It's just, I'm not entertaining that.
Yeah.
And now he's went and offered me. He's also offered me DeAndre Carter and Stevenson for CMC. Again, I'm not entertaining that. Rejected.
This is quite funny. Yep, get that out of here. This is quite funny because the boys must be watching and I'm getting offered stuff all over the place. Now, this is one's quite interesting. Comes in from Roberto in our league, and I'll put this to the viewers just now to comment in the chat whether they think I should accept or decline. Now, Roberto's just offered me Drake London and Wan'Dale Robinson in exchange for Juju Smith-Schuster, so meaning I would have to drop a player from that.
Mm-hmm.
I'll put that one to the chat. Comment if you think I should accept or decline. I'm not really feeling it too much, but let's see what you think. Get your comments in. Send us in your lineup dilemmas, and we'll get them up on the screen. We'll not hang about too long. We've also got one in here from Stevie Waugh. It says, Justin Herbert or Trevor Lawrence, gents. Herbert projected a few points better, but seen a lot of talk that the Raiders is a good game for Lawrence. What are you saying to that, Shug?
I'd probably go Lawrence as well. I'd agree with that. I think this could be a good weekend. I think the Raiders they've been really poor, really struggle for any sort of consistency. So I think it could be a good weekend for them. So I'd go with Lawrence ahead of it. Not much in it, but Lawrence ahead of it for me.
Yeah, I've got to agree with you there. It's a decent matchup for the Jaguars against the Raiders that seem to leak points left, right and centre. Chargers are up against the Falcons as well, and the Falcons have been a good team. We've said this for weeks on the pod, that they do seem to turn up. Mariota's doing a good job there. Given that we've just spoke about that Williams is out, Keenan Allen's out, I really expect him to run the ball heavy with Austin Eckler. So that's why I'm going to go Trevor Lawrence at that one. And like Greg's just said in the comment section there, I think Herbert's finding it tough due to having a lack of options. We've just said there as well. We expect him to run it heavily this game.
Yeah.
Anyway, we're getting plenty of viewers here, so do us a favour, guys. I know you're watching for all the fantasy advice and stuff like that, and I know that you'll be in a WhatsApp chat with all your league mates. Go and take the URL, share it, let's get more people on, and let's get more people subscribed. If you're tuning in and you're not subscribed, please subscribe. We really appreciate it. It makes all this worthwhile. But we'll not hang about too long on Toasty's trades. We're going to move on, and on Tuesday, Shug, we had the trade deadline.
Yep.
And it was the biggest sort of trade deadline there's been in a long, long time. And I'm going to start with Chase Claypool. He was a guy whose name was bandied around with a lot of teams for a while. And he actually ended up at the Bears.
Yeah.
What sort of implications do you think this has for owners of Chase Claypool? Do you think it's a good move?
To be honest, I do think it's a good move. I think Steelers were really struggling. It really went stale from there. I think they've pretty much just chucked their season and looking to rebuild now. I'm a wee bit surprised the Bears still see something in for this season. See Claypool as somebody that could be there maybe a few years. But I think it's a good move for him, to be honest. What's your thoughts?
Yeah, I like it too. I think it is a good move given that Darnell Mooney's not really done it. He's not seen as many targets as we expected. Everyone was tipping him heavily in pre-season given that N'Keal Harry was out pretty quickly. something else that I picked up on it, that the Packers were actually in the running for Chase Claypool. They offered the same compensation as Chicago did, which would have been a conditional pick given how they would finish the season. But the reason the Steelers chose the Bears, that they thought that the Bears would finish with a worse record than the Packers. So that's a wee bit leaves a bad taste in the mouth, given that obviously the Bears and the Packers are big rivals. But no, and I think now if you've got Deontay Johnson in your team, you're laughing. Claypool going out the door, you'll probably see a lot more targets. But no, good move for the guy, talented player, maybe not done it at the Steelers. I know a lot of Steelers fans were sad to see him go, but for me it's a good move for him. The Bears look like they're rebuilding, they've got a lot of picks going into next season as well. So yeah, it's a thumbs up for me on that one.
Yeah.
Next one, a guy you like, goes by the nickname, well, as you call him, TJ Hockensen, moved from the Lions to the Vikings. I was actually quite shocked at this one because Hockensen done superb for me at the Lions. One of these guys that seem to see a lot of targets, a very good player, probably sits below the top tier of tight ends, but a very good fantasy player. Do you think this is a good move going to the Vikings for him? And how does this approach for fantasy owners?
I'm very surprised at it as well. At somebody going from the Lions to the Vikings, it was a strange one. But I think he's a decent addition. I think he's a solid enough tight end. Really liked the Ham Hock a couple of years ago. But he's probably about just outside that kind of top 5 tight ends. So he's a good addition. And I think it could be a good one for his fantasy as well, his fantasy relevance as well. So I think it's a decent addition.
Yeah, they've struck with irons hot. If I'm right in saying, I could be wrong, I'm just going right off the cuff here. The Vikings are something like 7-1 just now, if I'm right. So they certainly see themselves as contenders. They've went about their business quietly. They've done well. They've got great targets in that team. You add him to Justin Jefferson, Adam Thielen. You've obviously got Dalvin Cook backed up by Alexander Mattison at running back. They're a good side. Kirk Cousins is a very steady quarterback.
I think from his point of view, it's a good move because it didn't seem, from what I was reading, it didn't seem as if he was getting that long-term deal at Detroit Lions. They weren't keen on really investing in for years to come. So looks as if he might get that at the Vikings, a bit of stability. So probably a good move for him.
Yeah, and for fantasy owners, when you're moving from Jared Goff at quarterback to Kirk Cousins at quarterback, I think that's very much of a positive. But you've also got to remember that he's now moving into a more crowded offense in terms of the targets are going to always go to Justin Jefferson there and then Adam Thielen, and you'll probably find that he'll be a big end zone target. So I wouldn't hesitate in starting him. He's still one of the top tight ends in the whole of fantasy football. So for me, good move for fantasy owners. Works either way. We'll move on. Calvin Ridley going from the Falcons to the Jags. This is something we just spoke about there in terms of targets. And that Jacksonville offense, I'm not fancying Christian Kupp this week because they've brought him in. They've brought him in for a reason. And for me, I don't know if I'd be going to pick him up just yet off waivers. Reason I say that, I think it's one of these ones that let's see how he gets on and then scrap it out waivers if you're not doing well. But he's not going to start ahead of anyone else for me, but it is still a big move in terms of Jacksonville trying to improve their team.
I mean, the guy's obviously got talent, but the conditional picks kind of tells you everything you need to know about it. It's a complicated deal. They don't want to take too much risk on it. They're not banking too much on him doing well here. So you're probably right. You probably hold off bringing him in. But then again, you do that, he's a big week. You miss the boat.
Yeah. Give me a nickname for him.
The Riddler.
Easy, man. Easy all day. Anyway, guys, we're going to rattle through these. Keep sending your questions in. We're really enjoying that side of things. Here's a shocker that kind of popped up on trade deadline day. Chase Edmonds, a guy that only went to the Dolphins in the summer. He's away to the Broncos now, God help him. Have you got Chase Edmonds?
No, I've not anymore, no. I did have him a while ago, but nah, he's gone. He's gone.
Completely and utterly flattered to deceive at the Dolphins. Now he finds himself at an even worse side at the Broncos. Jeff Wilson, move on to him. But Raheem Mostert seemed to have taken his job at the Dolphins, and after a few months, they've offloaded him right away to the Broncos. So for me, the Broncos, when I look at that, if I'm a fantasy owner, I currently have Melvin Gordon, who's a very good running back at the Broncos. He's lost his job there to Latavius Murray, who came off a practice squad at the Saints. There's also Mike Boone there, who was the RB3. I just don't know where Chase Edmonds fits in there, or if I would take the chance on any Broncos running back there. For me, it absolutely screams out running back by committee, and I'd be sitting any of my Broncos running backs this weekend. If I actually think they're on a bye week, so I'm mistaken there. But the next game up, it's very unclear who's going to be the lead running back there.
Yeah, and I think you called it. We spoke about it on Monday about Edmonds. We just felt it wasn't really working for him at the Dolphins. He wasn't really producing. It probably was a player that we could see moving on. But the Broncos, their season right now is just a write-off, isn't it?
Oh, absolutely. And who would have thought? The start of the season, bring in Russell Wilson, give him this huge contract, and then it just seems to fall apart so quickly. But when Edmonds went there, I know there was a lot of chat in our WhatsApp group about, oh my God, that's Edmonds going there. Whoever picked up Raheem Mostert off waivers must be rubbing their hands because he's a clear RB1 there. Later in the day, Jeff Wilson moves from the 49ers to the Dolphins. Now, Jeff Wilson and Mostert played together and done very well at the 49ers. They've now got the same tandem at the Dolphins. We've got to be happy with that trade.
Definitely. The Dolphins clearly think that they've got a chance this year of doing something really special because they're just going all in. As I said, Bradley Chubb added to him as well as part of the Edmonds deal. But they are just another addition to their team. They feel as if that's just where they're maybe short. And it's an exciting season now for the Dolphins.
Yeah, I actually seen a thing online. I can't remember. I'm probably going off my head here. It might have been what's his name, Micah Fitzpatrick. They trade for him away at the Steelers when they got a pick, and when all the implications come into play, that pick then turned into Jalen Waddle, Tyreek Hill, and Bradley Chubb. And that is what you call good business in the NFL. Like, the Dolphins now look like a serious contender this year, and Adam Wilson in the mix. Now, when we talk about a guy that passes the eye test, Wilson is that guy. I picked him up off waivers this week. I'm not starting him, but what I would say is that I'm going to wait and see, because we don't know if they're going to run them as a tandem with Raheem Mostert. Both guys very good running backs, very similar. So it's very interesting to see how Jeff Wilson gets on here. I know we see MC being in at the 49ers. Eli Mitchell looks like he's going to be back week 9 or 10. I don't think he's back this weekend because they've not announced if they're designating him off IR. So that's probably why he's ended up at the Dolphins, but you'll be pleased with that.
Yeah,
anyway,
absolutely.
Moving on. I know. The Colts, a team where I don't think anybody really knows what's going on at the moment in terms of their team. Nyheim Hynes has moved from the Colts. He's left them, given that Jonathan Taylor's doing well. Running well, he's not doing well, actually. He's doing terrible at running back there. I'm tripping myself up now. And he's now found himself at the Bills. Now, that is the type of move that you want in football. You move for a team that's going to be top 5 picks in the draft next year because they're not doing so great, and he's now ended up at a Super Bowl contender and the absolute favourite for the Super Bowl. You're rubbing your hands if you're Nyheim Hynes there.
Absolutely, and by all accounts, it was him that really pushed through the move and was desperate to get away. So it's worked out superbly for him.
And he's a good running back as well. I don't see him being the out-and-out starter there.
No.
Devin Singletary, you've still got him. Do you think that's now got an impact on Singletary?
I'm a bit worried it might have a slightly negative impact on Singletary. Again, I can see why the Bills would want to add that wee bit of depth there. But I'm a bit worried that Hynes does produce and that has an impact on Singletary's points. But we'll see.
I know with Hynes, it's just the consistency thing. There's 57 different varieties, so you just wonder what one will turn up. That is shocking, isn't it?
I shared a few puns. I'll need to catch up.
Sharp as a tack. No, but when I'm looking at the Bills running backs, seriously, before Nyheim Hynes went there, pronounce that with an M, and I know it's an N, but it's just the way I speak. James Cook seen an increased snap share last week, and folk were saying maybe Cook is going to see a wee bit more given as the weeks go on and take the load off Singletary. So I did have it in my head, right, will I try and bring Cook in waivers and go a bit tactical, knowing that people are picking ahead of me, would probably pick up Jeff Wilson Jr., but then they brought Hynes in, and I think that he's going to be RB2 there. I think Singletary's job is safe. But I'm not going to rush to pick up Hynes unless I've seen a lot of them. But one coming in, one goes out at the Bills. Zach Moss is out the door. He's the opposite of the Hynes deal. This one is an absolute gutter. If you're Zach Moss, you've went from the Bills to the Colts.
He's been kicked at the door, and he's been kicking and screaming, no one to leave, but he's gone. It didn't really work out from the Bills, did it?
It didn't. I remember last year in fantasy football, I had a few decent weeks, and that was about it. It was like a couple of splash weeks, and folk were dithering whether to pick him up and stuff. And yeah, for me, it's a bit of a nothing move going to the Colts. He'll play back up to Jonathan Taylor there, and I just don't see him doing much. You've also got Dillon Jackson there, who's a very good running back. So, yeah, we'll not see much of Zach Moss this year. Fantasy implications, I don't think many folk will have him anyway, and I wouldn't rush out to get him either unless there's a mass outbreak or something like COVID at running back at the Colts. But nah. In the words of that famous meme video, not for me. Anyway, let's have a wee look at the comment section over on our YouTube feed. Keep them coming, guys. We've got plenty going on here. We'll answer them in just a second. We're going to move on, okay, and we're going to look at some of the injuries, Shug, and we mentioned it at the top of the show. Cooper Kupp rolled his ankle in the Rams game last week against the 49ers, looked in a lot of pain, came back into the game, still looked in a lot of pain, and it's one to watch here. He's expected to be available for this weekend, and he came out and quoted that he dodged a bullet. Mm-hmm. Would you be starting Kupp, or would you be keeping a watchful eye over it?
I think he's one you have to start. I think he's expected to be available, as you said. So that's a big relief for any fantasy owners. In fantasy, I think you've got to stick with him. You've got to start him. He's too big a player. As I said, it's a relief that it's nothing. Doesn't seem to be anything serious. Probably just a wee bit of swelling. Probably come down. So I don't think it's too much to worry about. If he says he's fine, if he's expected to play, then keep him in.
Yeah, he's an absolute fantasy rock star. But what I would be doing, and if he's on waivers, and there's a slight chance he could be, I'd be going and getting Allen Robinson, just putting him as a handcuff, just keeping him there just in case, because you don't know what the repercussions are going to be if he does play this weekend, and you're now one of your top wide receivers down. Have Allen Robinson as a backup. If you've not got him, go and try and trade for him. I know it's not been a great season for him. He's had a few big sort of boom games, but for me, Cooper Kupp, obviously a huge player in fantasy football. Keep an eye on that one, but I'd be going and getting Allen Robinson before this weekend, if you can, obviously. Let's have a wee look. Oh, we've got a comment here. It's coming from Roberto. Garrett Wilson is back, wide receiver 1 just now with injuries, etc. Last week he scored 17.5 points, even with Zach Wilson playing awfully. What is your thoughts on starting Garrett Wilson?
Yeah, I think especially this week with so many buys, I'm finding myself with injuries as well. Wide receivers have been a tough position for me to fill recently, and Garrett Wilson's certainly a good shout. If you've got him, he should be in the starting team this weekend. Yeah,
I like Garrett Wilson. I know that Tyler Conklin has seen a lot of targets there. Things have changed slightly since Zach Wilson came back in at quarterback, but it seems to be he's not throwing the ball to his wee brother Garrett anymore. But last week he came back into the fray. Yeah, I'd be starting Garrett Wilson. I think he's a top player. He's been a top pick for the Jets. But yeah, don't be hasty in getting him into that starting lineup. I like him this week, so go with that. Another comment coming in here. Just reading, Broncos aren't tied to Melvin Gordon or Latavius Murray, so they may try and push Edmonds to be their guy. I don't know if I'm agreeing with that. So they're tied beyond 2022 is what he meant. So they're not tied beyond 2022 is what I meant, if you know what I mean. For anyone listening in, if you catch my drift.
Yeah.
So they seem to think that Chase Edmonds could be their guy. What I would say about Chase Edmonds, and this goes for folk that are in a full PPR league, Chase Edmonds at running back is only extremely relevant if he's catching the ball out of running back. Now, given how poorly that the Broncos have been, I can't see him catching much. So you take that away from his game because he's not like your normal, in a sense of his physique is not like your normal running backs. He is a pass catching running back. He can do a lot of things that other running backs can't. But if he's not catching the ball at a running back, then I wouldn't be throwing him into your starting lineup. Absolutely not.
Yeah.
But keep them coming. Comments are good. Do me a wee favour if you are. We've got plenty of viewers at the moment. Make sure you're subscribed to us. Make sure you're liking this video and make sure that you're sharing it with all your friends. We know that you do enjoy it in your fantasy leagues. Keep them coming. We're enjoying it here. It's good fun. We'll move on to the next of the injuries, Shug. And I'm looking around the league, and there is some big injuries at the moment. And one guy in particular that I'm looking at is Jamar Chase. We get caught cold last week on the show. It was announced while we were live that he is out for the season. He could go on to IR, but I think what they've said at the Bengals is that given that he's a bit of a superhuman freak when it comes to healing, that they feel that there's no real time frame for his hip injury. If you're a Jamar Chase owner, what are you looking to do here in terms of trading or bringing someone in?
As you said, they could come back in. It's a real unknown just now. So I'm not sure. I'd probably be keeping him just in case. Just keep an eye on it. It's maybe going to be just a couple of weeks. So I'd be keeping him probably on your bench. I wouldn't get rid of him just yet. What it does do is it gives another couple of weeks at least where Higgins and Boyd you're highly relying on, where they'll be good pickups. So if you can pick them up, I don't think they're bye week this week, is it? Are they also in the bye week?
I would check that. Bengals. I'm looking through it. No, they're not in a bye week this week. The Bengals are at home to the Carolina Panthers. So that is a game you're going to want to get your wide receivers in.
I'd be looking for Higgins and Boyd just now while Jamar Chase is out. That could be good additions in there.
Yeah. So what I'm thinking here, any Higgins owners are not going to let him go. Absolutely not. But what I would be looking to do is trying to bring Tyler Boyd in. Go and try and trade for Tyler Boyd because he's going to see enough targets. When you look at how many targets that Higgins sees, his targets are probably going to filter down the line and go to Boyd. But the Bengals looked absolutely shocking without him. I know we predicted an easy Bengals win last week. The Browns, hard team to predict. We both went Bengals last week, but without Jamar Chase, I thought they looked terrible. Yeah, and Higgins easy starter. Boyd, go and try and trade for him. That's my advice on that front. But another injury we're going to look at, Keenan Allen, we've already spoke about. It's one to keep an eye on. He didn't practice Monday, as far as I'm concerned. He didn't practice yesterday either. And that's him coming after the bye week. It doesn't look like he's going to be fit for this weekend either. This guy's a superstar when he plays, but it's an awkward one for Keenan Allen owners.
Yeah.
We've spoke about it already. Josh Palmer, there's the man. He's going to be available on a lot of waivers. There's other options out there, but the Chargers, I think, are going to have a good second half to the season. They've not started well this year. Probably, as we say often, the flattered to deceive. They've not been as big and as well as what we expected. But for me, it's Josh Palmer's time to shine.
Yeah, I agree with it. We spoke about it earlier. Keep an eye on Keenan. It could be a couple of weeks. You could look to get it right. Josh Palmer's probably a good pickup in the meantime.
Yeah, that's good. Guy on your roster, Alan Lazard. He was limited practice on Wednesday. It's a funny one with Lazard. I think he was in a sling last week with his shoulder injury. Yeah. Quite a hard one to predict. Am I right in saying you've still got him?
I've still got him. Unless it was a good deal came in, I'm not probably looking to get rid of him just now. You'd probably be selling yourself short if you did. I think he will come back in the next couple of weeks, if not this weekend. So it's one I'm keeping an eye on. As you said, limited practice. I won't be relying on him too heavily this weekend, but I'll wait till close to the end of the week before I make a decision on him.
Yeah. For me, with Lazard, it's not been a great season whatsoever. 26 receptions and only 84 fantasy points by this point in the season. He's been up and down all over the place. Nobody really knows who wide receiver one is at the Packers. It's not been a good season, and if it is to be Rodgers last season, then it's not really the end that we expected. But nah,
Yeah.
the Lizard, for me, he's benched. He's benched until he proves otherwise. But nah, it's been good. That's as much as we've got for the injuries. I know we announced earlier that Rashad Bateman is now out for the season after having surgery. I think we've covered most everything. Deebo Samuel's on a bye week this week, currently struggling with a hamstring injury. So there's not too much to talk about there. But we'll take another couple of questions from the comments. First up, we've got Hayden Hurst, tight end, versus the Panthers, or Garrett Wilson via the Bills for flex. What are you taking it? And this is for folk in their flex where you can start a wide receiver, a running back, or a tight end. He's obviously got his starting tight end. So Hayden Hurst of the Bengals against the Panthers, or Garrett Wilson via the Bills. I'll take this first if that's all right.
Yeah, go for it.
I know it was asked earlier in the show whether to start or sit Garrett Wilson. We did say to start him because we think he'll do well. Given the choice between him and Hayden Hurst is up against the Panthers. The Panthers are one of the poorest teams in the league. The Bills' defence, am I right in saying they're number one in the league right now?
Yeah, I believe they are, yep.
I would be avoiding very much against the Bills. I've got Tyler Conklin at tight end at my team. I need to start him because I've not got much choice. But for me, I'd be starting Hayden Hurst versus the Panthers. I know he's a tight end and you'd expect less, but given what we've just spoke about, the Jamar Chase is out, you might see him get a few more targets. He's a very good player.
Actually, I think we're wrong. I think the Bills are ranked number 3 defensively. But point still stands. Yep, I like Wilson, but I agree with the matchups. You're probably best staying away from playing against the Bills if you've got that other option.
Yeah, I'd be avoiding that. But
Yeah.
next question coming in. Garrett Wilson is available as a free agent in my league. Do I drop Deontay Johnson or Russell Gage?
I would drop Gage based on I had Gage for weeks and he offered next to nothing. So for me, Gage is gone.
Yeah, I'm going to agree with you on that one. When I look at the Bucs last week as well, it slid under the radar that Julio Jones scored a touchdown. You're going to find that between Godwin and Evans seem to get most of the targets there in fantasy football. Then you look at the flip side of the trade deadline, like we spoke about earlier. Deontay Johnson's going to see a lot more targets at the Steelers now that Chase Claypool's gone.
Yeah.
Like we didn't know, Johnson was the wide receiver one there, but more targets will be seen from his side as well. So that's a no-brainer for me. Garrett Wilson in, Russell Gage out. We'll go for one more question. And we're looking here that Waller, Mike Evans were limited and Tannehill did not participate. I'm looking across the league here. I'm not sure if there's a question coming in there. Yeah, I think he's meaning for tight end. So for me, I'd be looking at dropping Russell Gage there and Garrett Wilson coming in. Let's look to see what we have got coming up next, Shug. I think we are going to look to the game predictions, okay? And we're going to shake it up a wee bit this week. I think we can sit here and dwell on them all the time. So we're going to rattle through them as quickly as we can, all right? I'm going to give my prediction and I'm going to have 10 seconds to explain why I'm taking it. And then you're going to give your prediction and you've got 10 seconds to explain it. So for anyone listening and not watching on Facebook Live, we've got a timer on the screen and they'll count down. So I'm sure you'll hear it at our end. So first game up, it's tonight's game. We've got the Philadelphia Eagles going to the Houston Texans. Easy one and I'll get going. I'm going the Philadelphia Eagles. Okay. 7-0, Devonta Smith, big game. AJ Brown, big game. Houston Texans are a poor side, and I've got the Eagles to go 8-0.
That was
Over to
very
me.
impressive, by the way. And can I just say, with like a lot of things in this show, the graphics are like in beta, so anything could happen here.
Yes, Shug could take his top off too. Right, Shug,
Over to me.
Philadelphia Eagles at the Houston
I'll,
Texans. Who have you got?
I will not need 10 seconds to do this one. Eagles all day long. Texans have struggled. Eagles are flying. Eagles.
Nice. Alexa, off. Anything can happen live, my Alexa just came on there. Okay, next game up, game we've just spoke about. Buffalo Bills at the New York Jets. Buffalo Bills for me, easy pick again. The Bills have been on fire. The New York Jets, sneaky good, but I think the Bills are just going to have far too much for the New York Jets, who seem to be hot and cold at the moment. Bills for me. Shug, your turn.
Easy one again. Bills. We've got to pick them every single week. Favourites for the Super Bowl. Far too strong for the Jets. Bills all day.
Next one up, we have got the Carolina Panthers at the Cincinnati Bengals. I'm going to be predictable again. I'm going to Bengals for a home win here. Going to Bengals for the simple case that they'll look to bounce back after a poor game on Monday. The Panthers are a poor side. Bengals for me. You're done.
Yep. I'm in agreement. I think they'll come back. I think poor performance last week we didn't expect. Bengals bouncing back this weekend.
I liked how you done that there. Next game we're going to look at here, the Indianapolis Colts at the New England Patriots. I'm going to go the Colts. I'm going to be controversial. I don't know why, but I just never think it's as predictable as we think it is. So I'm going to go the Colts for no real reason at all here.
Pats for me, I think it's going to be an absolute. I don't think it's going to be much of a game. I think it's going to be a snore fest, but Patriots to win.
Next game up, we are looking at the Green Bay Packers at the Detroit Lions. I am going Green Bay Packers. All right, I'm going for a big game for Aaron Jones. I'm going for a big game for AJ Dillon. The Packers haven't been great this year, but I do fancy them over the Lions.
Out of time.
It still counts. On you go.
Packers as well for me. Lions will be absolutely tamed.
Out of time, short in time. Okay, your Dolphins at your other team, the Chicago Bears. For this one, I am going the Chicago Bears. A wee bit of a shock upset here, but I'm fancying Justin Fields just now. He is on absolute fire. So for me, the Bears.
Definitely Dolphins going to win. I do have a wee soft spot for the Bears. Tua's going to be on it. Tyreek Hill. Additions to the squad. Dolphins all day.
Not having it. The Vikings are at the Washington Commanders. For me, Vikings all day long here. The Vikings have been excellent this season. I expect them to be even better. Throw in the fact I've now got the Ham Hock at tight end, and the Commanders just haven't been good this season. Vikings.
Agree with that. Ham Hock coming in. Kirk Cousins going to have a good weekend. Jefferson as well. It's going to be a Vikings win.
Producer David's team. His newly crowned team. Next one up, Las Vegas Raiders at the Jacksonville Jaguars. Wolf, we're off the clock already. I'm going to Jags on this. I'm looking at them to bounce back. Big week at running back for Etienne for me, Jaguars.
Jags as well for me. Spoke about it. Ingram, Etienne. I think they'll have a good weekend. Raiders are really, really struggling right now. Jags to win.
Next game up, we have got the Chargers at the Atlanta Falcons. Now, this is a hard one to call, but I'm going to call it. I'm going to go the Falcons. I know we said that it would be a decent game for Josh Palmer, but given that Keenan Allen, Mike Williams both out, and the Falcons have been decent. Cordero Patterson might be back, so the Falcons for me.
Yep, I'm going to agree. Chargers injury problems. I think it's a close one to call, but I think the Falcons will win this one as well.
Seattle Seahawks at the Arizona Cardinals. Given that Call of Duty's just been released, it's going to be another defeat for the Cardinals. Seattle Seahawks, massive game coming up for Kenneth Walker, the King. For me, Seahawks all day.
Seahawks for me as well. I think with not really giving them the respect it deserves to start the season. Some big results, and I think they're going to continue it.
Okay, we have got the Rams going to Tom Brady's Tampa Bay Buccaneers, one of the late games on Sunday night. For this one, I am going to go the Bucs to bounce back. They've got so many targets in offense. Tom Brady can't be that bad for that long. They're at home, so I'm going to go the Bucs for this one.
I'm going to go the opposite. I'm going to go the Rams for the sole reason the Bucs are really struggling just now. There's something not quite right, and I think the Rams are going to get that win.
Tennessee Titans, the late game at the Kansas City Chiefs. Easy one for me. Kansas City all day. They're such a good side. Big game coming up for Juju Smith-Schuster. I hope Kadarius Toney does terrible.
Chiefs as well for me. Hard to disagree. Mahomes is going to have the pipe and slippers out, and he's absolutely going to stroll this one.
Okay, the late game Monday night, the Baltimore Ravens going to the New Orleans Saints. For me, the Saints were excellent last week, but I'm taking the Ravens for this one. I've already said I expect a big game for Duvernay and Jackson also.
I'm going to disagree here. I'm going to go with the Saints. I think they're going to finally kick on their season. I think it's going to be another Kamara show, and they're going to beat the Ravens.
That pretty much wraps up all the games for this week and our predictions. If you have got any more questions on YouTube, fire them over. We have been pretty active in the comments section by the looks of it. So we have got a question from the notorious Toasty, the absolute pest of our league. Everyone's got this guy in the league, the guy that sends you trade after trade after trade, and 1 out of 100 is decent, and the other's just a lot of baloney, as if he's insulting your intelligence when it comes to the NFL. So what he's saying is, how did your games at the weekend go, guys? Any wins? I'll let you take that first.
As you know, I lost to Roberto. Wasn't the worst weekend in terms of my scoring. Did okay. My big players all showed up. A couple of players not giving me anything. But Roberto, to be fair to him, had a good weekend. So narrow defeat for me. Narrow, about 15 points. But I'll bounce back this weekend, don't you worry about me.
Good man, good man. And I am going to be, how is it he says it, magnanimous in defeat? Is that the wrong word?
Yeah, no, you're right
there. I get beat this week. My opponent's scoring just short of 180 points. So if you're getting anywhere near that, then you're having a good week. The fact that a lot of my players like Chris Olave, Dante Smith had poor weeks, I'm going to take that in a week that I get beat by a hell of a... I think I ended up getting beat by 50 points in the end. But I'm going to take that in a week where my opponent's had a good game as opposed to my opponent having a bad game and getting beat and I had bad players. Expect him to bounce back. I've got Martin this weekend who's sitting rock bottom of our league and has 6 players on buys. And he's also just lost Keenan Allen officially for this weekend. So I'm looking to bounce back.
Yeah,
so that's what
that wee pigeon. That wee pigeon's been all over our comments. I feel like I'm in Buchanan Street.
He's a pest. A pest in the comments and a pest in our league.
You feed him this issue?
I don't. But no, thank you to everybody that's commented and tuned in. Like we say, please make sure you're subscribing. Please make sure you're telling everyone about us. We try and bring the best guests like we're doing Monday. We record from the G4 podcast studio, the absolute best of facilities around. So no, we're going to finish off with a game that I think producer David has organised for us. I don't really know what's coming here, but we'll bring him in. Let us know what is happening next, David.
Can I just say, I was very impressed with your speed talking. I've never had so much power in my life.
I sounded like John Barnes.
I just wish every segment could be like that. It'd be a producer's dream. So, the game that we're playing this week, it's nice and simple. We are going to do NFL quotes. I'm going to rhyme off some famous NFL quotes to you. These quotes are from movies, and all I want you to do is tell me what the movie is. And on recommendations from Kieran, because we don't want him to get absolutely hammered, the movies are loosely based around NFL. Some of them might be like totally to do with NFL. Some of them might just have NFL in the movie. You'll know what I mean when we get to them. Pretty clear?
Okay. Yes, we are clear.
Right, I'll bring up a little scoreboard here. Okay, first one. I don't care if you like each other or not, but you will respect each other. And maybe, I don't know, maybe we'll learn to play the game like men.
Is that any given Sunday?
Afraid not.
No.
I'm going to go for the longest yard.
Incorrect again. Has anyone in the comments got it?
Oh, man.
Nothing flooded in.
Midnight Lights?
Huge. It's based on Greek. The title's based on Greek mythology. That's probably the best.
Oh, God, man. I'm not a
The person
movie
that
buff.
said this.
Remember the Titans?
Remember the Titans.
Yes!
There we go. Okay, next one up.
That
Nice
movie's
quick-
overrated anyway.
Nice, quick, and easy one for you here, guys. Show me the money.
Jerry Maguire.
Jerry
Aye.
Maguire, yes.
Yes.
There we go. Well
Show me
done.
the money, Shuggy boy.
And then the next one. That kid may be the stupidest son of a bitch I've ever seen, but he sure is fast.
Waterboy.
Oh, no, Waterboy. Close.
Longest yard?
Not longest yard.
Forrest Gump.
Forrest Gump, there you go.
Oh, man. I actually thought that was me that said it about Shug.
I'm not fast.
You're stupid as fuck.
Right, let's see if you can get this one, guys. Okay. The inches we need are...
Any given Sunday?
There you go. That was a quick one there.
Sharp off the mark.
Absolutely
Stuart's
rapid.
inquiry here. You need to be reading the full quote.
No, first to the buzzer.
And
I've
this,
been done here.
well, this one will be very quick. So first come, first served. Are you ready?
Yep.
Captain Insano shows no mercy.
Waterboy.
What boy?
Yeah, that was Kieran that just
Get
got
out
into that one.
No, you didn't get it. I was first.
No,
Me
chance.
too, mate.
That was Kieran, I'm afraid. Right, I didn't think we'd ended a draw.
No, that's the Wi-Fi in Troy because he's higher up.
Right, last
Your
one for you
signals are
guys.
took it by that slow cooker, mate.
Right, everything to play for. Last one. I've got the shakes that will make you quake. I've got the fries that will cross your eyes. I got the burgers that'll... I just got burgers.
I've got it. I'm giving you a chance. It's the longest yard. It ain't easy being cheesy.
Yes,
Nice.
cheeseburger ready there. Well done. And that is all of our NFL questions. And the scores are 4 points to Kieran and 2 points to Shug.
That was free for me.
You should be ashamed of yourself getting beat off me in a movie quote game.
I know, I'm gutted.
So you should be. But no, that pretty much wraps things up for tonight. Thank you to everybody that tuned in. If we've got any new listeners or any new viewers on YouTube at the moment, please make sure you're subscribing, guys. It's a whole lot of fun doing this, and it's a whole lot of fun doing it with more people. But no, Shug, as class as ever. Thank you very much. Who have you got this weekend? Oh, you've said you up against this week?
I'm playing Johnny, so hopefully he doesn't sort his team out. Johnny, for him that doesn't know him, is a guy that's very much one of those guys you hate in fantasy because he hardly ever sets his team out. He can't be bothered. So I'm just hoping that continues and I can get an easy victory.
As an aside from that, do you not hate it when you go to look to trade a player and he's basically a guy that sets his team at the start of the season and just doesn't really do anything in fantasy football? You go to trade and you see that he's got the player and it's like, forget about it. He's probably not even going to open the app on his phone. As long as he sets his team, though, that's the minimum you can do in fantasy football. But no, we'll not keep folks too long. As ever, thank you very much. Keep tuning in to Boomer Bust. Follow us on socials at Boomer Bust Pod on Twitter and also on YouTube at Boomer Bust Podcast on Instagram. Thank you very much and good night.